I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
Hello, we are here and we are in our new studio. Welcome to season 30, episode 1 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, where we combine friendship, tabletop RPGs, and unbridled enthusiasm. Oh, and unbridled enthusiasm. I wrote that. I know it.
Well, you're a horse girl. Everything's bridled.
Yeah, absolutely. To bring you a roundtable discussion based on emails sent in from gamers around the world. My name's Kimmy.
I'm Kadave.
I'm Stork. We didn't work out who was.
Yeah,
leading
we
first.
didn't.
No,
I know.
we're all
Failed
different-
already.
I just went in.
So in today's episode, Thomas from Denmark shares his rewarding experiences playing RPGs with kids. Gecko State from Canada is struggling to get excited about running D&D. And Greg in Virginia wants to know what other RPG shows and podcasts we are into as hosts. If you'd like to be part of our show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. And our past podcasts and streams are available through our website at happyjacks.org, as well as links to our awesome Discord, social media stuff, and much, much more. All right, announcements. I have a new layout. I'm very excited about my layout that I made for the thing. Okay, so first off, we are in a new studio today. It is not complete, so we're having some audio issues a little bit. All the sound treatment isn't quite up on the walls yet, so please do not give up on us if you're like, oh, the sound quality has changed slightly from last week. Like, we know we're working on it. We wanted to make sure we got content to you rather than like what Jason always yells at me, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah, don't let better be the enemy of good. I use that at work all the time. It's
and I'm excited because I can go, hey!
Yeah. We are trying
And I
to go...
didn't just deafen 1,000 people.
Yeah, we're going lavless, so we don't have like the clip-on mics that people used to like forget about and rip off, or
Yeah. Or, oh, I have to use the restroom,
or forget
stand
to
up,
mute,
and then
all that stuff. So eventually it will be great. But right now we realize that there's a tiny little bit of an audio change. If you're watching, you can see like the kerfuffle of acoustic panels behind us. They're not all mounted yet. Eventually they'll have these cool little light effects that I have. I'm so excited. So hopefully that'll be in like next week. Yeah. So anyway, bear with us. Forgive our mess. Hang in there. But the lighting is a lot better. Yeah. Okay.
the whole setup is very nice.
It is.
It's very, very good.
Also
I
very
like it.
comfortable.
It is. I know.
It doesn't feel drafty.
No. It's a lot more space, and we have a bigger mini fridge now, so we have a bigger assortment of beverages available.
Yes.
But it's all the way over there.
Yeah, I know.
That's just as the same
That's
distance
true.
it was before.
Yeah,
It's just you don't have to climb
That's
over
fair,
a bunch
yeah.
of stuff.
That's fair.
Eventually, once we get it done, we'll make sure we take pictures and post them so you guys can see what it looks like. If you're wondering, the tables are in like a triangle shape. So we've got people on that side where Stork and Dave are sitting. I'm sitting on the other side of the triangle. We're like at a right angle from each other. And then there's a space for the GM eventually to sit when we do actual plays that is like the bottom of the triangle across the two. So none of us have to like turn our head completely this way to see somebody. So comfortably this direction. So we're excited about that. Anyway, I'm really excited about it. That's why I'm babbling about it.
Listen, you put a lot of work into this. It's okay to talk about it, and sometimes people like a little peek behind the curtain. You know, we don't often talk about the work that it takes to make this happen, and it is. There's a lot. There's a lot of programming. There's a lot of time. So, if you guys are curious about some of the stuff it takes, go ahead and write in, and maybe we'll do like a little behind the scenes show or something.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I always like seeing that stuff, but I'm kind of a geek and techie that way. I just like to know, like, how does that work? How did you do that?
I have many times said the best thing I ever did for my RPG habit is make friends that are willing to do a crazy amount of work so that I can just have wonderful recordings of all the sessions I'm
Right?
making. It's great. So I am very excited.
Excellent. Yeah, and people are saying that my mic is a little electric tangy. We haven't gone through, like, we have multiple mics around here. They each have like soundproofing on them, but we do have to go in and do those like micro tweaks that will slowly happen probably over the next few weeks. Hang in there. Don't give up on us. Amazing quality will be back, and it may be better even because you're not going to constantly get people with like the brushing sound or the breathing into the mics. That's like
Or the
not possible
hair
anymore.
brush.
Or the hair.
I'm feeling attacked. I think I've done
You're
all,
feeling attacked.
I've done all those
Hair
things
flip.
at once.
No, I never had the hair issue. I'll give it that.
The
But-
beard, though.
Yeah, but I go. Luckily for me, I'm a Hawaiian shirt guy, so I always have a good place to put the mic. It's a problem for the T-shirt crowd, I know.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Second announcement. We're going to introduce Patreon rolling credits at the end, or maybe not rolling, but credits. They might not be rolling. Who knows? But at the end of our shows, just to thank our amazing Patreons. If you are one of our Patreons, we'll be sending out a form so you can put your what you'd like us to call you on those, because a lot of people don't want to use their legal name for whatever reason, and that's totally great. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon, we ask $1 for each Friday show we put out. So all the APs and stuff you get for free. But the Friday show is $1 or more if you want, but whatever. But we're not trying to make the Patreon huge or anything, but I would like to be paid back for some of the stuff that I spent a lot of money on recently. So happyjacks.org/Patreon if you want to donate $1 for Kimmy
And,
not spending her child's college fund on the Happy Jacks studio.
and if you're tuning in tonight and you're incredibly wealthy and you're feeling generous, we're not going to say no to that either.
No.
In fact, there's some real estate just down the road.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
people would love that.
I mean, I'm telling you, I will be glad to help anybody spend money.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to, you just give me a call. You can email happyjacksrpg@gmail.com and say,
Attention, Dave.
Dave said he would help me spend my money,
Thanks.
and Kimmy will put you in contact, I promise.
I'll do the thing. We're also going to be featuring like fan art and stuff on those credits to make it more interesting. So if you want to make cool art and send it to us, we will make sure that you're credited on it, and we will feature it at the end of our videos. And whole tens of people might see it. It's very exciting. And if you already sent us stuff, we'll be cycling through the stuff that we've had given to us over the years.
We've had some really cool art.
Yeah.
So cool.
I think I might still have the Motive Sin black and white art that somebody did. It's so good.
Cool, yeah. And Minerva, who's in the chat room right now.
Hey, Minerva.
Yeah, she has done some amazing stuff. And then we've started hiring her too since then. And Floyd did some amazing stuff, especially with Inukai. I loved some of his stuff. It's really good. And call to action. If you like Happy Jacks, please make sure you actually subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. I know, especially with Spotify, it's really easy just to like listen and not subscribe. But please subscribe or follow, and then leave a review. It really helps us because it makes us more discoverable on all the platforms. So new people are more likely to find us. So it's a great way to spread the word about our shows without actually having to speak with anyone. So that would be super helpful if you'd like to do that.
When we first started, there wasn't that many podcasts. Now there's so many.
There's so many.
Role-playing podcasts.
Yeah.
Role-playing's exploded
Yeah.
for the 13 years we've been doing this.
So old.
Can you believe that?
Right. And also like it's not all on Apple anymore. Like it used to be if you had a good score on
That's
Apple,
true.
like people would find you because
Yeah.
that's where everybody went. But now it's Spotify, it's all these other things. So it's really
How do
like there's so many places
how
to
do we
find.
get noticed?
Hopefully people will
Like
review
this.
and like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do this.
Do the thing I just said to do.
Mhm.
Thumbs up.
Okay, cool. I think we're ready to start the emails.
Mhm.
Very nice.
Who wants to read the
Nice
first
preamble.
one? From Thomas in Denmark. Gaming with
that one,
Kim.
you
Go
want
I'll
ahead.
do it, sure. I went to school in Denmark. I can probably navigate my way through this. English not being his first language, and English is my first language, and I'm terrible at it. So this ought to work out perfectly.
Yeah, it's all good.
Hi, Kim and the Happy Bards.
Kim E.
Oh, there it is. Hi, Kimmy and the
Yeah,
Happy
it is.
Bards. I do have another mail caught in the line somewhere, but after having had so much fun this week with role-playing, I wanted to share a few stories. For years, I played RPGs with kids, sometimes as part of work, other times as a spare time hobby. Last week, it was winter break, and I did set up some games for the kids at the local libraries. Okay, first of all,
Holy cow. man.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
very
awesome.
cool. That is so cool. At the local libraries, too, plural, so
Mhm.
it's more than one. And I kind of played a little bit with my kids, but I wanted to they sort of became self-nerding on their own, and they were into games. But it is so good, and kids take to role-playing games so naturally because it's just an extension of imaginary playtime.
Yeah.
It's completely
And
like
nobody's told them, no, you can't.
no,
yet.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's great. That's exciting, and I really laud the fact that you are continuing that. Thank you. Spread the word. As always, it was great fun. We played Warhammer Fantasy Role Playing, and it was a merry band of adventures for the kids rolled up. We had a warrior priest of Sigmar, 2 duelists ready to do legal killings for money, an outlaw, a seaman, an investigator, and a stevedore.
That's fantastic.
That's
Whichever kid made a stevedore, that kid's my hero. Like, what do you do in the game? I load stuff. I load stuff very well.
I'm a shoveler. During the hours we spent together, the players experienced the old worlds of Warhammer while desperately trying to get punished or not get punished for getting into conflict with a band of nobles gone mercenaries. Unfortunately, the noble sons were troublemakers that indeed had murdered a priest of Sigmar, and the players did not find the body of the murdered priest. But it was a lot of headaches to figure out how to bring one's social betters to justice. In the end, they got one of the nobles drunk, then interrogated him. You know what?
Yeah, it works.
It's much better than what we normally do, which is try to threaten them. Yeah, like drunk. We should have got them drunk.
Yeah.
What were we
I love
thinking?
that's like little kids thinking of that.
Oops, sorry, I burned down the manor.
And then interrogated him. And when he tried to flee, they shot him in the arm. Wounded and bleeding, he was ready to cut a deal as long as he was brought to a doctor and left out of the whole matter. And that's good GMing. It's like, I'll take me to a doctor, but leave me out of this. That's awesome. He told them that the mercenary leader was just a man and that his drinking was him trying to forget the awful things he had done in wars, that they should let him know about the murder. While trying to wake the mercenary leader up from drunken stupor, the players got in a fight with the noble mercenaries, and one of the nobles ended up dead. When the local bailiff showed up, everybody at the scene was happy to settle the matter, stating that the dead man was guilty of killing a priest, and that all the blood and wounds on everybody else was just one big misunderstanding. The players were happy to avoid the hangman's noose for killing a noble. The nobles were happy to pin the crime on a dead man. The cult of Sigmar was happy to pay for the characters for solving the crime. Everyone wins.
Yeah.
It's some awesome GMing right there.
Yeah.
Tying it all up. Love it. The next day, we played another adventure where the players edged around a fledgling gang war between some merry halflings trying to muscle in on the local gang's territory while helping a noble lady get out some of the annoying trouble. She was the sister of the noble they made a deal with the day before. Ooh. The noble lady wanted some incriminating pamphlets burned so that the lies they told about her wouldn't ruin her social life. The players were happy to help for a payment in gold, and they found the pamphlets and burned them. The only character who could read did notice that the text spoke about the lady being a worshiper and a consort with demons, and was a bit suspicious. Putting suspicions aside, the players investigated the printer instead and found him making lots of dark, forbidden texts. In the end, there was a showdown at the print shop with flames, possessed printers, apprentices, dark magic, and plenty of sword blows and gunshots. One player almost died, but thanks to Warhammer role-playing fate points, he did survive a crushed hip, some badly broken ribs, and a bit of internal bleeding. Afterwards, there was some talk about going to a doctor, but when the players learned the cost of that, it was agreed that the pain could probably be walked off. Just go walk it off. Rub some dirt in it.
Sorry, your crushed hip. Just walk it off.
You know, here in America, that actually happens. I know in Denmark it's all paid for, but here in America, people are like, "It costs what?"
Yeah, I can't afford
I'm
that.
just gonna walk it off. Yeah, right.
My sweet summer child.
The kids had a great time and got to keep the dice they used as souvenirs. They all hope to get the chance to play role-playing games again, and hopefully I meet them again at another gaming table. Best regards, Spielmeister Thomas from Denmark. I love everything about this email. I love the fact that he drove through winter to game for these kids in multiple libraries. I love his stories. I can tell just from reading his plot outlines how quick he is with yes-anding, and having all of these things tie up, like the whole thing about it was all one big misunderstanding. The players are happy to avoid the hangman's noose. The nobles, like how quick he thought that up and put that all together for them. I really love everything about this. It's great. I would love to play one of your games.
So here's the thing that I'm most excited about is I'm thinking about in 5 years, and you go somewhere and find one of those kids running a game, and you get to play in their game.
Yeah.
Like that is
That's
the dream, right?
Yeah.
Like that is absolutely the best part about playing with kids is thinking about like, oh, someday I can rest on my laurels and let someone else do the storytelling.
My oldest daughter, she played in games and liked to play, but was always hesitant about GMing because she's also a writer, finds herself a writer, and was afraid that she would take control of the narrative too much. And I looked at her and said, no, this is just like teaching. You just put on your teacher hat.
Right.
And she looked at me like I was from Mars and went, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. It's like, you just put the teacher hat on and you're a teacher and you have all those skills. You went to school for it. And now she's GMing games.
Yeah.
It was just, she just said, change your mindset. That was all it was. She was like, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And all is right with the world. In fact, she's been playing with DT Pines.
Nice.
And there's a whole online group that they meet up with. She's having a great time. But my point is that she learned to GM and just decided to go with it. And as from a young kid and seeing that it was normalized and all of that, and to now running them herself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all my GMing skills came from being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the sort of the same thing where I was terrified of GMing. And then people are like, why are you scared of this? You have 36 kids every day.
Right.
Like, this is 4 of your friends hanging out. Like, it's going to be fine. It's like,
What,
oh, yeah.
what was I thinking? You're absolutely right. It's like a lesson plan and a scenario for the GM. It's exactly the same,
You
isn't
gotta
it?
be
Right?
flexible. You gotta like encourage group participation and working together.
It's all the skills.
Yeah.
You went to school. You got a master's degree in that.
Yes, I did.
GMing should be easy.
Yeah. It's funny though because I think it was Erica Odd in the Discord posted this YouTube video about this GMing horror story with kids, and like how the kids were like trying to kill all the NPCs, and the poor GM like didn't know what to do. It was like overwhelmed, and he was used to going in. Actually, I don't know if it was he, but the GM was used to going into these situations with like after school programs and like being like savior GM who like stepped in when someone else couldn't run a game for kids and just like met their match with this one particular kid. So it's just kind of, it's funny because there are some kids who do default to violence and things like that, and a lot of it has so much of it has to do with the DM or GM and how they set up the game. If you make the NPCs real for them, they will treat them like they're real. Like they'll do a better job of that than adults will. But if you've run, or if previous DMs have run things like a video game, it's like, go through it.
Oh yeah, kill that guy and take his money.
Yeah, then they will have those habits. And so it's just great to hear stories like this of people really putting like a great foundation on stuff for these kids, so that as they go hopefully on in the hobby, that they have great experiences and they don't see it as just like beat things up, murder people, kill things, and take stuff.
I know grown-ups that play role-playing games like video games, and we've had them in our and it's we've always talked about not belittling somebody else's fun. This is fun for them. This is the best they can do, and yet it can be frustrating when you've got a role player in the group and then just a guy that is bored. Why are you talking? I want to kill things. And I was a 14-year-old boy playing role-playing games back before video games really happened, and that was a lot of what I wanted to do. I wanted to get my Vorpal sword. I wanted to get. It
was all about like get the cool loot.
Get the cool loot, exactly. But that's what a video game does now. And now I want more from my role-playing games.
Yeah.
So I think it's part of it's endemic of being trained by video games, because that's what you're trained to do. Oh, this is a game. I know what a game is. Oh, I created a character. I know how to do that. I've done that, and now I go out and kill things. Well, what do you mean? I used to just go past all of that annoying dialogue so I get into the fight. It takes a different way of thinking about it, and I could see how a GM might run into somebody who is resistant to that, especially a 14-year-old boy who really just wants to act out and kill things.
Yeah, I think in the story they were like 8 or 9.
Okay.
So they were super young. But one thing too, like a lot of people who run games for kids want them to have a good time, so they don't want to like enforce rules. They think, oh, I'll just let them do whatever they want, they'll have a great time. And some of that's true, but it also means like they can end up having less of a good time. If they can just do whatever they want, they will just continue to do whatever they want, and eventually they'll get bored. As much as adults, they like bumping up against problems for themselves to solve and challenges they feel like, hey, we won.
Kids need structure, right?
So much.
Like if
they love it.
If you just like throw a kid in a room with 100 toys, they're going to run around like a maniac for 10 minutes and then sit there and be like, I don't know what to do.
And start crying.
Yeah, and be upset or bored
Mm-hmm.
or what am I don't know what to play with.
Exactly.
Or start tidying.
But if you're like, okay, so the first 10 minutes we're here, let's play this game. And then the next 20 minutes we're going to do this and that. And then the kids are like, oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah. They don't have like the planning, structure, choice skills that some adults do.
Yeah. I have days that I spent with that
same.
where I'm just like,
I think we all need structure. I think
Yeah.
we can all agree to the fact that I'm much better when I have, I'm going to the same place,
task
get up at
list.
the same time, and it's like it's when you start going, it affects everybody, especially kids.
Yeah.
But going back to the gaming thing, I think when you're gaming with kids, it's important to set up a type of game that helps with the imagination and less about just setting up the next kill.
Mm-hmm.
I think kids can get that from a video game now. What I think is interesting and would be interesting for them is the social interactions or the puzzles or solving a mystery or even something along the lines of something of Scooby-Doo where there's clues and things to work out, which is clearly what he did with this. It's so much more. It's a different way to game, and I think it's much more engaging on their brains. They talk to each other. They talk to these NPCs, and it's not necessarily leads towards a battle. It can if it happens, but I think it's important to stress the puzzles and social interaction and less the combat.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of games specifically being designed for that now, and specifically to help teach that and facilitate that. There's people who are looking into that for working with students who struggle with especially the social norms and expressing their feelings and things like that. And I've been following it, like articles and things. But I think it's such a fabulous tool that could really be utilized in a lot of really great ways to teach that stuff.
You bring up a really interesting point. I were talking to some people at work today about kids. They had a party and such, and all the parents brought their kids over, but none of the kids interacted with other kids. They didn't really know how, and the parents weren't really sure if they should. It was sort of sad and weird, but that's kind of the new norm they're in. We've got a lot of introverted children, by choice or not by choice, that I think not video game, but role-playing games could help because you're just learning to socialize and interact with each other in a safe way.
Yeah,
and work as a team.
And work as a team, very
good. You can have a kid that's okay with socializing, but then you put them in an environment where they have a common goal, and they're just like, "I'm a bulldozer." And the other kids just feel like crap, and they're not having a good time because one kid's like, "Wah."
Yeah.
But it's a good.
And then that kid someday grows up to take over a podcast and build a studio in her garage. My daughter actually had her first play date, having a friend over last weekend. Yeah. So she's turning 2 this month because it's April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day. And it went really well. It was nice. It was super. They've played together at parks and stuff, but it's like we were saying with the room full of toys, so they'd run around and look at each other and then run in opposite directions, and other kids were there and all this stuff. So they finally came over and they were playing in the backyard, and they did a really good job.
That's good.
So it was fun. So now that'll be my spin-off podcast is how to socialize your COVID child.
My
$1 million.
As the father of an introvert, my youngest is very introverted, and when school stopped, they were much happier with school online.
Yeah.
But even they started craving interaction.
Yeah.
They were like, I don't like people, but the ones I do like, I want to see. All right.
Yeah, but been a challenge.
It has been.
All right. Second email.
Number 2. From Gecko State, struggling to get excited about D&D.
Don't we all, though?
I understand.
Yeah.
Amen.
So, yes. Hello, Kimmy and the podcast crew. I like that. I like thinking about that, like the Mardi Gras cruise. Yeah, we should build a big Happy Jacks float.
I like the alliteration. Kimmy and the crew.
I just don't want to build anything. Let's just not talk about building anything.
Okay, I was up till 2 a.m. doing acoustic panels,
Right.
so come on.
No, but imagine. Oh, when the Doodah Parade comes around, we could have a Happy Jacks float. It would be great.
I love how Dave sits there and looks at Stork and I.
Yeah.
We could have a
I'm
float.
so excited about this concept. I was in the Dude Up Parade as a kid once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I was on a radio show.
Oh.
I played a kid in the back of a Studebaker complaining about when are we going to get there.
We there yet?
Do you remember like your exact line?
I do not.
Okay. Something like, are we there yet? Are we there
Yeah,
yet?
it's along that
Are we
line.
there yet?
Yeah. It was like a family of 6 trapped in an old Studebaker. And I was crushed up against the window like, please, can we stop soon?
Old Studebaker.
Yeah. And we recorded it in a Studebaker.
Moving right along.
It
Moving right along.
was great. Yeah, yeah. All right. Sorry. It is my second time writing in. I'm still going through the backlog. Yeah, it takes a while. But I've almost caught up. I started off with season 1 a few years ago. I may have missed a season or 2 with being pulled from Apple. But yeah, we get that. That's understandable. He's on season 26 at the time I read. You're almost there. You are almost there now. And we're pretty much the only RPG podcast that I listen to regularly. So,
Oh, thank you.
Drink.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Cheers.
I forgot to grab a beverage.
We'll save it up for next time.
Yeah.
Now, for why I'm really writing in. I've offered to run a game for a group of friends and family. I had last year run a short D&D 5e game for some of them. It went fairly well. Now we're wanting to start something again. Probably D&D 5e again. As I've opened my big mouth saying I'd run that. But I'm having a hard time wanting to prepare it. I offered to run the first adventure from the Tales of the Yawning Portal collection book. Cool, all right.
Is that just like
What is that?
a really bored portal? It just.
Oh, please.
Not again.
It's that portal from the Star Trek episode.
Right there.
And it's just been on that planet for 50,000 years all by itself.
Done.
Like, please, let me send some people back in time to kill that lady in the street. All right. I'm not sure if it's because it's a pre-written dungeon crawl adventure or because it's D&D and it is not something I want to run right now.
It's both. I'll
I
tell you that,
understand.
Yeah.
To be honest, I caught myself before I caused a whole chorus of fares. I like starting from pre-written things to kick off a campaign.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times everybody needs a little bit to get their character footing and having that sort of just a lot of times, especially if you find a pre-written adventure in one of the like RPG core books, they're useful because they tend to showcase a lot of the different stuff that's available in that system. I like doing that. But
it's kind of like the tutorial in front of a video game.
Yeah.
It kind of like you get to learn the controls. You learn,
No,
you know, what you can and can't do.
yeah, like learn to crouch,
Yeah.
learn to jump over a log. That was great. Anyway, so I'm not sure if I should hold myself to running the promised game or find something that I would enjoy running more. Part of the problem is that my group is very agreeable and patient. Well,
That doesn't sound like a problem at all. You are.
Well, no, I understand because if
My group fights constantly. Boy, am I lucky.
my group threatened me if I don't run D&D. No, but I understand what you're saying though. Like it's hard to if you know your group is going to be like, okay, yeah, well, if you want to do that, we'll do that. But then secretly in their heart, they're like, oh man, I was really looking forward to playing D&D again. Like, oh, that's a bummer. So you don't want to let them down. When you have a generous group, you don't want to be the one that lets them down. I get it. As I've run this problem before, and part of the long break was me not being able to decide what to run. Also, they're all new RPG players, so I don't want to screw this up. Any advice is welcome. I trust you all. Drink.
Huzzah.
Thank you from the west coast of Canada. A beautiful place to visit, I must say. The Gecko State. Oh.
Oh,
Is there PS?
Yeah. I have to unstaple it to be able to read
oh
it.
yeah, I tried to save
No,
space on the paper.
It's all good. It's all good.
The first PS in the new studio. We missed our first To Be Fair, though.
To be fair.
To be fair. That was not in harmony with that.
No, that's all right. I was waiting for Dave.
I wasn't coming in. I wasn't.
Dave's like, I'm not the singer.
I'm not to be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair.
That wasn't key. That was good.
Yeah, I have a good ear and I know how to sing. I
Nice.
just don't do it a lot.
I want to hear you sing now. Not on the no, I'm not gonna make you do it on the podcast. But like, this is now my new goal. Like, eventually, I'm gonna get you drunk enough to sing for me.
Karaoke.
Sure.
No, not even karaoke. Like, just my backyard. Fuck it.
I'm gonna come over and Kimmy's like, well, if you want to run your game tonight, you better sing a
Yeah.
song. Just dangling the key.
Now.
I think what you're gonna have to do is have a musical episode in your game. that you
Oh
do.
no. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, right.
I don't know if I could like.
Joey would rock
Ad-lib.
that.
Yeah, you would.
Joey would be like, I'm here for this. And Jason would be like, I'm sick tonight. I won't be there.
I'm so sorry.
And Anna would be like, I love my future husband so much. He's amazing.
You've already written this whole.
Yeah,
thing.
it's all happening.
This is like
This is
right
going
now,
on now,
the
yeah.
script.
All right. P.S. Thank you for all your years of service. And Stu, thank you. I agree. You're like an RPG uncle to me.
Aw.
And thank you for starting the podcast and bringing these fabulous people together. You've all changed my life. And not only by the podcast, but fan base too. So genuinely and humbly, a great thank you, Happy Jacks.
You're
That
welcome.
is very kind. And I completely agree. Totally, I'm exactly in the same boat as you.
We've talked about you a couple of times. Like
Yeah.
you met us through this podcast.
Yeah.
And now you're like one of our
Well,
closest friends.
I was fans of you guys from visiting the Renaissance Fair. And then I got a job where I was driving a ton of miles, and I was like, I can't listen to AM radio anymore.
I will murder someone.
So I started diving into podcasts and downloading them and putting them on a little USB player because it was pre-iPhones, guys. I know there was a time before.
13 years ago.
Yeah.
It's funny. Last week we read Hoser Rob's first email.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
It's so cute. It's like, oh, but it's weird to think about that. Like,
We just come in and we sit here and we just talk, and stuff goes out into the void, and we don't really think about it. And then somebody like you comes up and goes, "Yeah, I've been listening to you since day one, and I recognize your voice." And oh, that's Tyler over there, and you're like, "What? Weird."
you know, the thing that is interesting for me is all the relationships that have started.
Mm.
Like, we had people tweeting about, oh yeah, hey, I met my wife through Happy Jacks. And Joey and Adam are getting married. They met through this. Gina and Jeb. Like, all these different people, like, started, like, we've also started, like, life-changing friendships that, like, just are completely, my life is completely different because of Stu asking me to be on a podcast one time. And that's, I don't know, it's just this weird, I don't know, nexus event, the starting of this weird little podcast that, like, spiraled out and has changed people's lives. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's remember how D&D or role-playing games used to be sort of maligned as you spend time alone in a basement with a bunch of people. You're like, yeah, but it's a really social event.
Yeah.
And this is proof of it. It's like when you're doing this, it's so social. You run into people, you meet people, you go to cons, you host a podcast, and they, next thing you know, there's tens of people that know you.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite thing, though, has got to be the fact that we have cultivated a listener base of people that are awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like every
100%.
time
Mhm.
somebody comes to one of the cons, they're just so cool.
They're the
Like,
coolest. Our fan
It
base
is
are
such
very
a
cool.
such a favorite thing of mine when somebody's like, I flew like Craig flew all the way from England to see us,
Yeah.
or
That's
Hive
so cool.
Mind came from Japan
Yeah,
Yeah.
to see us, and it's just like, and they're so
James.
rad.
it's very
Yeah,
cool.
it's just and it's nice because if they keep listening to the podcast, that means they generally agree with us, so that we can be friends. Like it's a way to weed out people. that- Like, well, if they listen to a few episodes and they're like, "Oh, golly, I couldn't play with those people," then
There you go.
you can't play with me either. That's great.
Don't like my friends, you don't like me.
Yeah, exactly.
But we should probably help them with this problem. Any
Yes.
ideas?
We can get to that in a second. We've got
Oh,
lots
okay.
of time.
All
We can
right.
keep talking about how awesome our community is.
Yeah.
It's been interesting with kind of building up the Discord in the last couple months, whatever it is, because lots of people have been kind of coming out of the woodwork who haven't been around for a while, and so that's been really neat. Like people coming back and starting to listen again after they haven't listened for a number of years. The map that we added to the website has actually gotten people really excited. We have a listener in Africa.
Okay, so that means that we've conquered every
I
continent.
think every continent. Well, we definitely have listeners in South America.
Yes.
Like I see it on our podcast.
We've had emails from
statistics.
people in Brazil.
Yeah, 100%. Nobody's tagged themselves on the map, but I'm counting it. Like, so we've conquered the world.
And the North Pole. We have people.
Milk the giant
we have people
cow.
we have people in Finland, and that's above the Arctic Circle, so that counts, right?
And a few weeks ago we had the person who's in Canada in the military in that base that has no connection with the outside world. Remember?
Yeah.
And they were like, "We're basically at like magnetic North Pole."
Okay.
So
That
I'm
counts.
counting it.
That counts. Everything.
But yeah, if you don't, if you listen and you haven't actively reached out and started meeting the community, like you should. It's awesome and like there's so many people who have genuinely supported other people in the community through some of the best and some of the worst things you could possibly think of, and just everybody's there for each other. And it's amazing to have a bad day and like go in there and talk to people about it or be stressed out about something, especially over the last few years, and having so many amazing people be there to support you and just be great.
Discord has a reputation for bringing out the worst in people. Even the name, they've labeled themselves as Discord, and yet everything I've heard is that the Happy Jacks Discord is full of lovely people, very supportive, and it's very cool.
Yeah.
So don't let the fact that it's on Discord deter you.
Well, also like there's other ways like Twitter, like all these different things. There's ways to connect with people.
Sure.
We still have a JackerCon Discord where people run actual play games, or not actual plays, like run games for each other, like regular games that are not actual plays, and just so there's a very active gaming community as well. So
yeah, my daughter hooked up with a bunch of the Happy Jackers.
Super
and
great.
Yeah, and not everything ends up on the podcast. So there's a whole community there of people that would just game with each other online, but they're Happy Jacks people, but they're, you guys don't have to worry about being on camera or making it interesting for the audience. It's just to play.
Who's a Rob in the chat goes, actually, he didn't say that. I just added that part. Discord can mean conversation. It does not have to have a negative connotation.
He's right. It's
Is
true.
he sure he's not talking about discourse?
I think that might be what he's talking about.
But
Oh, yeah.
you really want to actually him?
Well, if he started it.
Dave has
love that.
glasses now. He can
I
actually
do.
push
You
the
did the
glasses
Oscar
up his
Goldman
nose.
glasses.
I've been on this
Steve
podcast
Austin.
long enough that now I have glasses.
It's from reading these things.
Yes. At least Kimmy printed out a decent font size.
I did. I picked it up sometimes. I'm not going to read Rob's reply to you, Dave.
That's fine. It's probably not safe for the internet,
He's
which
probably-
says a lot.
he's probably
We're an adult
texting
podcast.
us,
We're fine. But it's just going to piss him off. He's just going to be like, seething. Tell him what I... Okay. Anyway. Mail 3. That's my... Oh, you're reading still. Sorry, we're not done.
Yeah, we still got to figure out what he should do.
Oh, yes.
to make
we never
D&D
got back to
interesting
that. We
again.
just yammered on.
We were
Yeah.
just going to skip by. There's no D&D. It's D&D. Yeah.
So here's the deal. Find a game that truly excites you. Bring it to your group and say, "Hey guys, I know we talked about playing D&D, and I understand. Like me personally, I do understand that D&D is kind of the lingua franca of RPGs, right? It's the universally known in aviation terms. It's how English is the language of aviation, right? Everybody knows attacks of opportunity and roll and sneak and everything. I understand the D20 and how that works and stuff. So yeah, it can be hard to sell a different game to people, but find a game set somewhere with something that is exciting to you, and that excitement will help make a better game for them. Like, even if you're feeling guilty about the bait and switch, like, oh yeah, maybe we'll play D&D, I'll run that again, and then, oh hey guys, I have this other thing. If you're truly excited about something, it's gonna shine, right? Rather than, oh, it's D&D.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's already committed. Like they've even picked what adventure they're going to run.
Yeah, I mean, until you start playing, you haven't committed.
The only recommendation I can have is try not to run the standard trope D&D. I know the game is set up to have the healer, fighter, mage, rogue, and that's it, right? And variations on that flavor. I find the more interesting games for me are when you sort of subvert that, and the adventure has to sort of be crafted around the fact that you're not going to have like the traditional party
Balance.
Like we were talking about the game that we ran, which was Mission Imbartable, where everyone was a bard, and it was a Mission Impossible style game. But we had different types of bards. We had like a second story man, we had a con man, we had a fast talk bard, we had a bard that was into like making traps and things.
We had the war bard,
right?
Like,
and
I smash things.
So but the whole point was to break into this castle however they wanted to and rescue a kid and get back out without being seen and without raising a commotion. And it was I thought it was a fascinating and that concept could have gone on adventure after adventure after adventure. Mm-hmm. But it was crafted as well that you didn't necessarily need the healer and the rogue, even though bards can kind of do a little bit of everything. So all of those are sort of covered, but it made the game interesting to GM. I think it made it interesting for the players. And so you could do very similar things like that. You could have a group of urban rangers that are, solve crimes in the city. You could steal the Mission Imbartable that we had. You could also just have like a Harry Potter type thing where everyone plays somebody that has a magical ability. You could have a sorcerer. You could have a blade wizard. You could have a cleric or a healer. You could even have a bard. But everybody's got a magical. And you could start them young, and they're in a school, and they get assigned, or something goes wrong in the school.
Yeah, but don't make it Harry Potter because
don't make it Harry Potter, right?
Yeah,
but you could use it as a jumping off point. It's
yeah.
like you are in a mage school.
Yeah,
it doesn't have
magic school.
Yeah, again, it makes it interesting because you're not stuck with, all right, who's going to play the fighter? Okay, I'll play the fighter. I don't like him, but I'll play the fighter. And you don't want to play that fighter. This one's much better. And here, if you build it with use these speeds, that makes it much better. It's already the game's been ruined for me.
Yeah.
Like I want to play the character I want to play, and I don't want you telling me what the best build is. Damn it.
For me, like yes, D&D is definitely not my favorite choice, but running a pre-run adventure. That sounds like a nightmare to me. So, like, also reflect and maybe that part of it. Like, maybe it would be more fun to create your own world with these players to play in. Because it's, like, going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's the difference between running a lesson plan somebody else has written or writing a lesson plan that I've written. And that may not mean a lot to a lot of you, but that's a world of difference because it's your own style. I get to put myself into the lesson plan as well as just doing whatever the hell I want, like not just following like a formula or a recipe, you know what I mean? So for me, I think that's probably the biggest thing, but that may not be your problem, Gecko.
I tend to look at all pre-written adventures more like an outline. Like here's some important beats that can happen, and then once you open up that little pouch and that butterfly of an adventure flies out, and then the first player just smashes it on the table.
Right, now you're done.
Now that part's done, and you go in whatever direction they decide to go.
It's kind of a small manageable. Like if you put them through the Tomb of Horrors or whatever, it's
kind of, there are some things, and especially this. I'm not familiar with this particular, whatever it was.
The yawning portal.
The boring,
the sleepy,
the boring portal.
Sleepy circle.
Sleepy portal. Sleepy tube.
See now I'm excited about this game, but to have you as the GM run it, like just no.
Oh no! It went to sleep again. What's a narcoleptic portal?
The narcoleptic portal. Like one person goes through and it falls asleep.
You have to get it. You have to get it to yawns, and everybody's to run in the middle of the yawn. Right? Where are we?
Yeah,
amazing.
I want that. Yeah, that's good.
Again, you're kind of subverting the trope, right? It's no longer are you just like, let's get a bunch of other people together, we'll go into a dungeon and bash things. I've often thought it would be fun to run a game from the monster's point of view. Like they're all hanging out in the dungeon, right? Having tea or whatever, visiting.
There's that indie
and then
RPG.
There's like...
Yeah, there's a new one.
Skeletons?
Okay.
Yeah.
Where you, like all the players are skeletons that are just asleep in a tomb.
Okay.
And part of the rules is you actually have to like close your eyes and sit there, and it makes you sit there for like 2 minutes. with your eyes shut, the lights off.
2 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, but it really gets you into the mindset of like someone has invaded our dungeon, and then you all stand up and play, and then
That's
if you
cool.
defeat them, then you go back to sleep, and it's an interesting game.
If you think about the layout of a dungeon, it's like the trolls next to the orcs, next to the skeletons, they're all hanging out together. There's got to be a place to, like, it's not like they don't leave the rooms and get attacked themselves, or their friends. So like I can imagine they're all hanging out playing cards, and the little bell goes off. Oh, right, people are here. Everybody, places. It's like Fright Night at Magic Mountain. They're like, oh God, somebody's coming. Everybody, get ready.
Forlorn Hope 22 in the chat room says, "Wow, Yawning Portal is just a bunch of old dungeons. Don't run that."
Oh, all right.
So maybe think about that. Yeah, yikes. That does not sound like my cup of tea.
I always enjoy the world building. It's really my favorite part. And even though I might put in a module where you, like you said, outline or as a jumping off point, I still like to build the world. And if you can build it with your characters, it's even better. I mean, you were talking today about a game where you were talking about you start in a manor house, and from there you kind of build out. You can add to your manor house, and it's kind of a great way to do any game, which is you start small. Everybody, meets in the cafeteria of your magic school, and it's somebody, it's got the plot seed, and you move from there, and the players can, again, as a GM, he's like, well, why don't you tell me about the layout of the school, and how do you guys travel, and what's the city? Is there a city near the school? And all of that stuff gets fleshed out as you play. It makes it so much more interesting for everybody, because now everybody's got investment and buy-in.
No, I will say that I can go in for the tactical mini game sometimes.
Yes.
Like getting into just dungeon fight and figuring out how to survive and how to do all the things your character can do, and especially if you get into some of the classes in D&D now that are able to help, like, lend actions to other people and move things around the battle mat and all that stuff. Like, that's neat and it's fun, and I enjoy that. It's just I couldn't do that for session after session after session.
Yeah.
Like, give me a solid session of a crazy big fight. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then next time, let's deal with the aftermath of that.
Because my biggest problem with D&D is the power creep and how long combat will end up taking. It might start out fine, but eventually you can spend all night long clobbering something, and it's just they hit, you hit, they hit, you hit. It just gets tedious.
Yeah. It's better than it was in 4E. But Wizard Canada in the chat room says, yeah, it's a bunch of dungeons that the portal itself in a bar just sends you. So now this yawning portal is in a bar.
Yeah.
Like, our story's getting better because this yawning portal that just, like, keeps falling asleep.
And the bartender's pissed because
Yeah.
he's taking up seats at the
Yeah.
bar and he's
Right.
not getting tips.
Oh man, we
The
can make this
stupid
so much
portal's in the
better.
way.
They say it's just a way to bring a bunch of old dungeons forward into 5e with minimal effort, but I feel
Sure.
like there is a kernel that could become an amazing.
Could be hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tales from the Floating Vagabond. It all starts in
Yeah.
the sort of Nexus bar, and we had all of the.
Or you set them all down to start playing D&D. They go through the portal, and then you pass out new character sheets.
There you go.
For, I don't know, Tales from the Loop, and you're like, hey, you're a 12-year-old kid in Nevada.
Yeah. Or Tales from the Floating Vagabond, or
I just slammed on the table.
Weird West
Sorry,
or something.
everybody.
Yeah.
I get excited about that.
Like, just hey, it's not D&D today. Or use that as like every time they finish a dungeon, do a one-shot of some other game.
That is so
Keep it interesting.
cool.
And then they come back to the dungeon for the next level or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And especially because I think that you said that they're new players, like that would give them a taste of a lot of different
Yeah.
systems. And if at some point they're like, wow, we love this game that we tried.
This was super fun. Oh, I love this one. Then
Yeah.
you're like, aha, I'll put a check mark next to that one for next time.
Yeah. I mean, RIP your free time for trying to learn all those systems.
Wouldn't
but
it be cool if, like, you have your core D&D characters, but they sort of what's the GURPS one that's do like so much? It was sort of a
yeah.
The time authority
time authority one.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
probably wouldn't it be cool, like, you get this portal in your D&D world, and you just every time you step through, you end up in another place at a time, but it's the same people. But now, let's say, I've got the Star Trek where you become gangsters, or you end up in the Wild West, and it would be. That's a great way to play D&D, because all of a sudden
That's
you can maybe try to use the same rule set, but it would be a whole lot trying different things.
I put together an ill-fated con game with Tim Huntley.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was your problem right there.
No, it actually worked out really well. except like the core idea of it was every player character was from a different RPG system.
I remember that.
I do remember you talking about
Oh
this.
yeah.
And it was super fun, and the idea was they kept falling from world to world,
Mhm.
and whoever's character was from that world had advantages, right, that the other players didn't have. And it was cool, and it worked out all right. It was just a combination of a lot of math and a lot of real fuzzy math to make it work. I don't know why I keep looking. For some reason, I've noticed myself. I'm not looking at the camera, everybody. I'm sorry about that. I keep looking at the microphone like it cares. Yeah, I'll do better.
It's got a little light.
Yes, it's a little light friendly.
Yeah, it
They're
is.
friendly
The
microphones.
camera looks mean. It's like
It does.
looking down at me like little blue light, and down here it's just cozy.
Little R2
It's
unit
got
right
its
there.
little like
It's a
safety
nook.
thing around
Yeah, it's a
it.
little yeah.
Yeah.
A little mic nook.
Just want to curl up in there and read a book with it.
Yeah.
The camera's just all
We got
haughty.
this
like
in
a little
our,
R2
through our
unit
studio
there.
industry.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, it was
Yeah, that didn't sound like a good idea at all.
it wasn't, but it was hilarious. And we had a really good time doing it.
Mhm.
It just was more complicated than I thought because I ended up with a bunch of players that actually knew all the systems. So then they were like, well, how does this rule apply in this world? And it was like, yeah, I sure thought of that one ahead of time. Wink, wink.
I think you should play Traveler. I think because that way everybody designs their characters by themselves. You know, and all these weird things happen, and people are laughing and people are worried, and then by the time you're done with the character generation, everybody is bonded, having a great time, and they can't wait to play. And you can play any kind of game in the Traveler system. You could even dump everybody onto a primitive planet where they have swords and armor, and just use the Traveler rule set.
Okay, everybody, we're going to play Tech Level 1
Right?
Traveler.
You could.
I hope you found a stick.
It could be
I
like
have to
Rust.
say, every time you tell a story about Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
I picture like a mini orchestra all playing like a fantasy bards playing the Mission Impossible theme.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I don't know why, but it's like doo, 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 doo,
Did
on
you-
like their violins
you-
and like lutes and
You
stuff.
played all the Witcher games, right?
Yeah.
This was inspired by one of the side adventures where he has to steal something from a house, so he ends up going to the circus and recruiting like the
Oh
acrobat
yeah.
and the magician,
Yep.
and that's what I decided. I'm like, yeah, this troupe of
I remember that. It was very
that's
weird.
but that's the one that's what the Mission Impossible is. And then I thought, well, Mission Impossible really is just full of these multitaskers. There's the gizmo guy, there's the face guy, and why don't we try to do this in a fantasy setting? I thought it worked really well.
It did. Yeah.
I unfortunately Dave did most of the heavy lifting because I was again working and so busy at the time. I'm like, here, Dave, make a bunch of characters. I have this great idea, but I can't help because I'm busy working.
Sometimes that's perfect, though. I've told you before, like it's sometimes it doesn't matter how long you've GM'd games or anything. Sometimes you just sit around and you're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea what's coming next or what to run next. And then every once in a while, you'll just be struck by lightning or have a friend that's like, oh, hey, I came up with this idea. We should do it. And
I thought it was really cool. And I actually went and looked at old plot lines from Mission Impossible, and we found one and just changed it a little so that it would fit with the medieval time. So all the work was done for me. Here's our plot. Here are our
yeah,
characters.
and we're like,
go.
what are the chances that we get a player that's like a super Mission Impossible fan that watched the show on TV back in the day?
Yeah.
Has that, and we didn't. Luckily, that would have been hilarious. Though.
Right.
Like, oh, this is season 3, episode 12. Like,
And again,
oh.
it's kind of what the Freak Show was too. The show that the game that we came up with, which is where everybody sort of has their own skill set, and they're a band of freaks that go out and solve crimes or mysteries.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you should watch Nightmare Alley if you haven't.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should watch Moon Knight.
I'll get there. That just came out this week.
I know.
I'm so excited about that.
I
Like, so
haven't
excited.
started it yet.
I still haven't even watched Spider-Man though. I'm
Me
so
either.
behind on everything.
Me either. I'm really behind on that one.
Yeah. Sam and I were planning to watch it this weekend.
I'm not gonna watch the Eternals. I
Don't.
know I probably should.
No,
Okay.
don't. You're better off not.
Yeah.
I was viscerally angry at that movie. Like I was like I knew it wasn't going to be great, but I was like I am here for Angelina Jolie being a badass warrior, and they spoilers fucking stole that from me, and I will never forgive them. Ever. Ever. I was so angry. I was so mad through the whole movie, and I just kept getting more angry. And then the pacing problems are just out of this world bad. Like my fourth graders write better paced stories when they're talking about what they did at lunchtime when they hate writing, like, than this movie. Like nightmare. And they didn't even like they totally toned down Jack Kirby's designs. Like you can see it if you look at it, you're like, yes. Like if you close your eyes just a little, so it like is like already cutting out some of the colors, you're like, that's Jack Kirby's work. And then you open your eyes all the way and you're like, oh, that's Jack Kirby if he didn't have any colors. Okay, I like it.
I feel like she's sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
Very angry.
I'm not really sure what she thinks.
I'm saying the non-spoiler angry version. I was very angry. Poor Dave and them came over and hung out at my house like very after it, and I like talked for 20 minutes about how angry I was at this movie.
And I delight in when people are very passionately upset about movies.
Plus, we were all drunk and eating a bunch of good food, so it was great.
I mean, I legitimately like it. Like, I like when somebody's passionate about either hating or loving things, because then it's interesting, right? If everybody's like, oh, that was all right.
It's fine.
Then you're done talking about it, and you have nothing to talk about. Plus, it's always nice for me when someone else has a reaction like I did to the new Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
And I just turn into a ball of molten rage, and I want to tell the world about
And you
it.
bring up a really good point there for the people out there that don't know about your hate for the Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
You should,
Well, now you do.
Yeah.
Angry burning
The
fire.
Kelvin universe is wrong, and it should be ashamed.
Like the first meeting with Captain Kirk, you had the best observation at all, which is like Captain Kirk is supposed to be.
Captain Kirk was always, the super short version, was always supposed to be a brilliant person, right? Like he was always
One step ahead.
top of this class and one step ahead, and you know,
he beat the Kobayashi Maru
and a great leader. And yes, I understand he cheated the Kobayashi Maru test,
but he
right?
got an award for creative thinking.
But in the new movie, they do the Kobayashi Maru scene, and they made Chris Pine play him like he was a douchebag, like disrespectful to the whole experience and and to Starfleet in general and all of that, and it was just garbage. I didn't like it. And then they made Spock into like crazy rage maniac that was ready to fight all the time, like, oh, I'm so angry. Like, no, you're a Vulcan, dude. Chill. Just anyway, I could go on for hours. I won't. I will not subject everyone to.
You brought up some very good points because it's nothing I'd fully considered, and after listening to your diatribe about it, I'm like, Dave's got some really good points, and he's right.
It's funny because I used to think it seemed good, it seemed fine, but I've now since then gone back and actually watched Star Trek because that was when I was writing Starscape. It was my big thing, and now I'm like, oh, it's so wrong. It's so bad.
Here's the thing: if they had just made generic science fiction action movie, it would have come out. I would have gone to see it. And I would have gone, all right, that was a generically good science fiction action movie. But then you made it Star Trek, and you made none of the interesting moral conundrums of Star Trek.
Right.
The whole social commentary of Star Trek. Just throw that all away.
Yep.
Make an action movie out of it, and then use all the same characters.
So many
in which you can only see 40% of the screen at any given time. Like, why did you pay for special effects? Do you just have some idiot in the background with a flashlight?
But that's the thing. They actually had to put in those levelers digitally. Those don't exist.
No, but I mean, a lot of them
so annoyed
did,
at that
because they legitimately had people with a hand in the frame shooting a flashlight at the camera.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? What?
Well, I think they had Chris Pine do the Kirk that is like the satire of Kirk. Because I was honestly surprised when I went back and watched the original series. I guess it was last year now. Like, he does a great job. Like, he's a good actor.
William
He just-
Shatner is so charismatic in
yeah.
that.
And he's like, he takes it seriously and he sells it.
It's a shame that Shatner sort of become a caricature of himself, but
Yeah.
you go watch him in his youth and his power right there. He's so good.
I was amazed. I was like waiting for it to
Absolutely.
be super corny and weird, but he is very
Yeah.
convincing as a leader. You were like, okay, no, I see why this works. Because I am so used to seeing like the Family Guy, like and stuff like
Ridicule
that,
him.
where it's literally a joke now.
Or Galaxy Quest and such, where it's completely where they. But even Galaxy Quest, he was a better leader than
Yeah,
Fine
than
Kirk.
than what you expect Kirk to be based on like pop culture, and then like really watching it, it was nuanced and like meaningful. I was
Shocked at how good they were.
yeah, I was like waiting. I was like with the popcorn, like ready to make fun of it, as because I'd already watched TNG and I'd watched a bunch of other stuff, and so I was like, oh, go back and watch the original series. And I started, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
Some of them are better than others. I mean, certainly the
Yeah.
Tribble one
Oh, yeah.
is the pinnacle. The
I love
Tribble
that one.
Tribbles.
Because I love Deep Space Nine, and I'd already loved Deep Space Nine. That was the first one I ever really watched, and the Tribble episode and the way it ties in with Deep Space Nine. When I went back and watched the actual original Tribble show, I was like, oh, they're right around the corner. Oh, Dex is right there. Oh, but they weren't really there. But in my head, canon, they're there. So,
I just love it gave Shatner a chance to do his comedic chops. There's a bit where he's standing there under a pile of tribbles with that smirk on his face, and they're like,
yeah,
on his head.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's so
he
funny.
does this restrained, will somebody please close the door? It's so funny.
And that's the thing is, it's not like I'm like, Star Trek has to be a serious discussion of stuff. No, like, Star Trek has always had an undercurrent of comedy.
Yeah.
And it's always had the ability to tell an interesting story and have moments of cool action stuff
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right.
And if a
So-
giant alien spaceship from centuries in the future comes through a portal and blows up a ship in which Kirk's parents his mom was literally in labor,
Yeah.
and then where did they go for 20 years to let Kirk grow up? Did they they're like, oh no, we're not going to go tell the Romulan homeworld that they're in trouble ahead of time,
No.
or give them crazy advanced technology to rule the galaxy in
Yeah.
the future. We're just going to fuck off to nowhere space and wait for 20 years and then come back and be like,
I'll tell
trouble.
you what they went.
Never mind.
The yawning portal opened up. The yawning portal opened up, and they fell into that plot hole.
They did, yeah. They yawned and got
yeah.
lost.
Not a black hole, but a plot hole.
A yawning portal. All right.
Where
Email
are we?
the third.
Where were we?
Yeah,
Greg-
There we go.
I was on the wrong page. I had to
No,
read
no.
the right
Okay,
page.
keep going.
I'm
Okay.
with you.
Greg in Virginia asks what we listen to. Dear Jackers, I'm a member of several tabletop RPG groups. I do this a lot. I do tabletop RPGs, not table pop RPGs. In various social medias. And there's always someone asking for recommendations on good podcasts to listen to. I've had 4 hours sleep and a lot of ciders, so awesome. As a longtime faithful listener, I always suggest Happy Jacks, but I've never seen anyone else mention your show. This is why you should leave us good reviews and subscribe to us on. Okay, anyway, it seems like there's a lot of new podcasts out there in the last few years. Yeah, there is. And I've often wondered if you guys listen to any other podcasts for entertainment or ideas or just general knowledge. For full disclosure, the only other gaming podcast I listen to is Fear the Boot. Also super old cronies in the RPG space. And that was my commentary. That was not the email. And I only learned about them because of the weird thing you guys had going years ago with traveling to St. Louis to do their laundry and cut their grass.
Yeah, that's where we ended up. That's
Which
so
I'm sure
funny.
was a joke, but I have so many questions about. Yeah, that was weird. But it was very funny at the time.
Stu and I at the time, we were like the scrappy young. Thank you for your email.
Yes.
Fear the
It's
Boot
not
had been,
done yet, but yeah.
Fear the Boot had been around for a long time and are established. And of the podcasts I've listened to,
Like they've been around like 6 months more. They seemed really established to us.
And so we admired them. It's
Yeah.
something that I listened to. It's something that got Stu into it as well. Fear the Boot was like that. He's like, I can do this if they get, yeah. And so when they asked us to be on their podcast, we're like, what? Yes, but we're going to be like the the new guys, and we'll mow your lawn so that we can be on it. And they didn't
Oh.
quite know how to play it. They just wanted to talk to us, and we were like,
Yeah.
but we admire you guys. So it's like, what if we play it like, well, hey, can we come by and mow your lawn and be on your podcast? Like, I don't know. It was it was weird, and they're great people, and we should probably do another crossover at some point. We've crossed
Absolutely.
over a couple of times, but and they have. That's my answer already, but we're not even done with the email, which is Fear the Boot.
Yeah, I guessed it on them like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Time has no meaning, but
Yeah, right.
yeah, they're still around. They just did like a leadership change too, though. Everyone was like, Fear the Boot and Happy Jacks are like parallel. It's like maybe.
Or maybe just people that have been doing it for
13
over
or
a
14
decade.
years,
Like,
yeah.
I'm a little tired, guys. I'm just gonna set this down for a minute. Like, oh, man.
Can this? But yes. By the way, I put my location on the map. And
Yay!
yes, Kimmy, I can't even say my own name. I haven't drunk this much in a long time. I had a baby, and I haven't had a lot to drink.
Yay, Kimmy.
And like add that to like the 4 hours of sleep I got. I'm very tired. And yes, Kimmy, that's my name. I did read the instructions. Please don't yell at me. And stay happy and keep jacking. Greg in Virginia.
Yeah, the instructions are this simple, and it bears repeating. If you're going to place yourself on the map, do not put your address.
Yeah. Put
It's
your
just
town.
city and state.
That's
Yeah.
it.
State,
'Cause
city.
if
Or
you-
region, like,
Yeah.
it will kind of ask for it or imply that it's don't do it, because once you hit send, it goes up there for everybody to see.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing to know.
Yeah.
Unless you want people that you kind of only sort of know, bothering you.
I mean, I guess we could start to like make a printable yard sign that people could put up.
Happy Jacks is
Like,
there.
It sounds like a great
Drive
idea.
around your neighborhood and see who has them out.
Not a good idea.
We've had people do that. They're like, someone lives down the street from me.
Yeah.
Like they're legit. Like I want to know who lives in like
Like,
right around the corner from me.
Geotag them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's me. It's just up the road.
Well, yes, you. I know. Jason's even closer. He's like 5 minutes from here. But yeah, it's been kind of funny. People are like,
that's the whole reason why the whole B team even found these guys at fair
Yeah.
was because like we were listening and then a story came about going to our local gaming store, Game Empire,
Yeah.
that was literally a 2-minute walk from Rob's apartment.
I was going to
at the
say,
time.
Rob lived like at
Yeah.
the time because the game store moved, right? It was
Yeah.
like he could look at the parking lot from his.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we would walk over there and game and stuff, and it was like, oh, these guys are local, like.
Very.
And then Stu started putting the songs at the end, and it was like, oh, I know these
I know
guys.
those guys.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, maybe yard signs is a thing.
I mean, you never know. All right. So other stuff we listen to or watch.
Yeah, the full disclosure for me is, and I'll just say this now and tag out, which is that of the podcasts I listen to, the RPG podcast, Fear the Boot is the only one, and I don't even really listen to podcasts that much, and I only listened to a couple of them for a while when I had a longer commute, but my commutes aren't that long. I don't do a podcast when I get home, and I just don't like to listen to other RPG podcasts too much because sometimes I might steal their ideas or even some of their opinions because sometimes they're so well phrased, and I find myself parroting, and I'm like, oops, that was their opinion. So it's easier if I just don't listen to them, so I don't accidentally start quoting them.
That makes sense.
I would put a strong recommendation on 12-Sided Stories.
Yeah.
They're our local friends.
They're like we were like playing back and forth on Twitter today. We're like we're not sibling podcasts, they're not like our sister podcast, but we're like cousins, like very
Yeah,
close
yeah.
related cousins.
Like we show up at the same family reunion,
100%.
and we're like, hey, great to see you.
Right. It's Pooja and Jay
It's a bunch of
and
people that
Mac
are
runs
friends
it.
and-
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
yes.
we share a lot of people.
But if you're looking,
Maybe we're like exes, like the people who've dated the same people, but like
no,
not like angry
Now you're
exes.
making it weird.
I am. I'm weird. I'm sorry. I'm a little drunk.
no, I think to me it's more like they're friends of our friends.
I get that.
And so, like, we all end up at a party, and it's like, hey, good to see you. Hey, but
Yeah.
You're that person. You're at the back. We
Yeah,
used
yeah.
to call backyard friends.
yeah, or if anything, we're the like weird people that show up at the party that
Totally.
are just all over the place,
And they're super well
and they're
produced.
super well
and, like,
groomed
Yeah.
and wearing a tuxedo, and they're like, what do you
100%.
think I am, Lemon, a farmer?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Wes is
Yeah.
very high production value on their
Yeah.
shows.
so if you're looking for
Sorry.
a 45-minute, just get through some story.
Nice discussion that's
Have it-
professionally edited.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like their
Sound effects, the whole thing.
their shows are fun to listen to.
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to that because it's something I can put in my ear while I do drudgery, right? Like I can't stand to do laundry, but I can make it bearable by engaging my brain in something else.
Yeah. Um, generally my podcasts that I listen to are okay, I'm gonna be a white woman mom stereotype. I love true crime.
Oh,
So I listen to true crime podcasts all the time. When it's RPG related, I generally am supporting my friends on streams. So watching them, and I love seeing my friends succeed. So I really like watching Saving Throw Show. So many amazing people on that. I've been on that. And also one that I've recently found is Q Times, but it's spelled weird. It's spelled like the British line, like QUE, QUE, through the whole thing. But they have some really awesome shows and a lot of like a big variety of content. So I've really enjoyed kind of getting to know them and their community recently too. So, and I recently started listening to Gaming and BS, which was kind of like they used to be listeners of ours and Fear the Boot, and then they kind of started their own podcast because that's like what our fans do is like, I love Happy Jack so much, I'm gonna start my own podcast about gaming. So that's been really fun, kind of like getting back in touch with them and like thinking about the old days. And like I was talking about the RSS feed on a Discord the other day, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I remember when you had to switch the RSS feed years ago," and like everybody, it was like a big deal, and all these things. I'm like, "Oh, I forgot about that."
Yeah.
So like all these weird things that we've forgotten that are like so interesting that what people remember.
It's funny that you get invited to be on other people's podcasts. I don't think anyone's ever asked me to be on any other podcast.
Well, because you're not on social media.
Yeah, that's
If you ever checked the actual or real stork or whatever it is,
the genuine stork.
genuine stork,
Genuine
that's what
stork,
it is.
And Instagram, which isn't me, because apparently everybody but me has a password.
I don't know
knows
what
the
you're talking
password
about.
to that. Am I still taking pictures of food?
I don't know. I think Stu's moved on, so I lost the password. Like
once I didn't bite, once I didn't like get aggravated and take it from him, he was like, "No, he's not gonna."
No, he's a limited attention span for anything, no matter how entertaining it is.
Well, yeah. I don't have time for social media. I don't work in an office. It's just my phone dings enough. I'm up on a ladder looking at it. People glaring at me. Sorry, it's the wife. I've got to take this. Can't imagine.
Yeah. All right. Oh, sorry. Oh no, we finished the email. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. That was our first show in the new
Yeah.
studio.
we did it.
And again,
Nothing's
like,
on fire.
I know nothing's burning. We didn't lose connection, as far as I can tell. So yeah, but again, like we're still working on sound treatment and stuff. We know the room is super live right now, so there's a slight echo that will go away.
And a
Other
cricket.
things like that.
And a cricket.
Oh God, there's so many crickets.
Yeah.
North Hollywood, like
Yeah, I know.
anybody who lives in the valley knows the cricket problem.
They're everywhere. Yeah. People who aren't from LA, they think this place is a big concrete jungle. It kind of is.
But with crickets.
But there's raccoons and coyotes and opossums and lots of birds and lots of insects. The place is teeming with wildlife, even though it's a major metropolis. It's very strange. Bears,
The bears.
deer. So it's funny. Here we are in LA, and we're like,
Erica's being super mean to me in the chat room. She's just like, the only issue is I can't hear anyone. I think you've all been muted for an hour, and like I'm drunk enough that I like panicked, and I was like, wait. Everyone's been replying to what we've been saying in the chat room. So obviously, but it just took me a little bit too long to like put those things together. So
it is
Erica,
April Fool's Day.
Oh
too.
my goodness!
It's
Yeah.
April Fool's Day,
Oh
Erica.
yeah, it's April Fool's
Yeah,
Day.
thank you.
Oh, I survived in elementary school on April Fool's Day, so everything's fine. That's the other reason I decided to get drunk tonight. All right. So thank you for joining us for season 30, episode 1, the first one in our new studio. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Kadave.
I'm Stork.
All right. And again, if you like Happy Jacks, please make sure you've actually subscribed or followed and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep.
And we are going to leave you with a song, if everything works. This is going to be Plan B by the Angry Folk Band, aka Stu. And you can find it at angryfolkstudio.com. Thank you much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Now I'll take the left and you take the right. The road will stick to the shadows and remain out of sight. Let the wizard do the talking, his intelligence is the best. Then we'll all take on the boss man while the fighter takes the rest. Oh, we had this good idea, well it seemed good at the time. Now half our party's dead, and that sure ain't a good sign. So now we're back to character, Jen, our error we now see. So before we try out plan A, let's figure out plan B. When we get in the airlock, our weapons will be hid. After decontamination, head nonchalantly to the bridge. Let the trader do the talking, his fast talk is the bomb. Then we'll all ready our weapons and tell the crewmen to be calm. Oh, we had this good idea, well it seemed good at the time. Now half our party's dead, and that sure ain't a good sign. So now we're back to character, Jen, our error we now see. So before we try out plan A, let's figure out plan B. Well, let's load up the 50 cows and slip through the portal gate. And when we see old Squidface, tell him he has met his fate. The professor will read the banishing spells, his mythos is highest of all. And we'll all make our sanity checks, and Cthulhu he will fall. Oh, we had this good idea, well it seemed good at the time. Now half our party's dead, and that sure ain't a good sign. So now we're back to character, Jen, our error we now see. So before we try out plan A, let's figure out plan B. Oh, we had this good idea, well it seemed good at the time. Now half our party's dead, and that sure ain't a good sign. So now we're back to character, Jen, our error we now see. So before we try out plan A, let's figure out plan B.